Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a 12-team PPR mock draft from the #1 overall spot over on FantasyPro's Draft Wizard. The roster positions for this draft are going to be 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, that you please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. And if you do want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into this 12-team PPR mock draft from the #1 overall spot. Now, I think it is very interesting to see how ADP is on FantasyPros compared to these other best ball websites like Underdog Fantasy, because before doing this video, I obviously did a practice run. I wanted to try things out, see how things look, and I think it's very interesting because right now, if you're looking at the overall rankings on the left side of the screen, you can tell that the running backs are going very early in the first round. Whereas if you're playing on Underdog Fantasy, you can see that the first couple of picks a lot of the times is just wide receivers. There might be 4 or 5 wide receivers go in a row in the first 5 picks, whereas here they seem to want you to take Christian McCaffrey #1 overall. Now, am I going to throw some type of a crazy hissy fit if you want to take Christian McCaffrey #1 overall? Of course not. I still think he's going to have a great year. I think you can probably debate with Eckler, Taylor, with Bijan Robinson, who the #1 running back is going to be, but I wouldn't hate you if you went running back #1 overall, even in a PPR league. But for me, since this is PPR, I'm going to go with a wide receiver. I agree with the tiers on FantasyPros. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, and Tyreek Hill are all in tier #1 for me. So it's really just a pick your poison here at #1. If you like Jamar Chase better than Justin Jefferson, then that's okay with me, but I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. Obviously had a huge year last season in 2022, and I think he's going to have yet another great season in 2023. Ever since he's been in the league, he's been a top 10 wide receiver in fantasy football in full PPR. He was the #1 receiver last year, and it wouldn't shock me if he was the #1 overall guy yet again, even though Kirk Cousins obviously isn't the most ideal quarterback to have for any wide receiver. When you are as skilled as Justin Jefferson, it doesn't even really matter who's throwing you the ball. So looking at the draft board, after we went with Justin Jefferson came Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Derrick Henry, Travis Kelce, and Tony Pollard to close out the first round. So we only see 3 non-running backs in the first round. Now, I think this is going to potentially even be the normal in a lot of normal leagues, right? If you're in a league with your friends from work, you're in a league with your friends from home, from college, maybe even some of your family members, then I think people still have the running back fever, right? People love to draft running backs early, but I think if you're in a more competitive league, if you're in a league with people that watch YouTube videos, listen to podcasts, read articles, right? Then they're probably going to be looking to go more wide receiver heavy early on. I think it's very different to look at this comparing to Underdog, because on Underdog, there might only be 4 running backs going in the first round, maybe even sometimes 3. The second round opens with Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Ramondre Stevenson, A.J. Brown, Devontae Adams, Kenneth Walker. The third, Breece Hall, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne. The only pick that I really don't like out of these, there's actually 2. I think Josh Jacobs in the first round is just way too high for me, especially ahead of Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson. I understand it in the second round, especially if running backs are coming off the board extremely quick like this, but the first round's a little bit crazy. And then the other guy is Kenneth Walker. Obviously, Zach Charbonnet might not instantly take over, but I think the fact that they drafted Zach Charbonnet in the second round, Kenneth Walker was a second round pick last year, I think this might be a fucking battle, a duel to the death, and Kenneth Walker might end up losing. So drafting him in the second round to me is just absolutely absurd. In the fourth round, sure, I get it, but in the third round, no way am I going to be doing that. So we started our draft off with Justin Jefferson. If we pull up our team, we got Justin Jefferson. So looking at the running backs, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Dameon Pierce, Joe Mixon, J.K. Dobbins. We have all the quarterbacks and all the tight ends aside from Travis Kelce. Wide receivers, Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave. So at this point, I am not just going to reach on a running back. I'm not going to panic that I don't have a good running back because I don't think that anyone should be drafting Aaron Jones in the second round. I like Aaron Jones. I think he's a talented player, but the fact that they lose Aaron Rodgers, they move into Jordan Love, and the fact that they have A.J. Dillon there's no reason why you should draft Aaron Jones in the second round. So we are just going to keep things simple. Don't overthink. Don't panic because the running backs might disappear. We're going to draft Amon-Ra St. Brown with our pick at the 212. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I even have him ranked ahead of A.J. Brown and CeeDee Lamb right now. They are in the same tier, though, for me. I think without Jameson Williams, we might even see a even stronger start out of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I know people kind of shit on Jared Goff, but people also like to poo-poo all over Kirk Cousins, and Justin Jefferson's still dominant, so Amon-Ra St. Brown should be just fine. It's not like Jared Goff is Stevie Wonder. I can't see him at all. Looking at the board here, I don't necessarily think going quarterback in the third round is that crazy. If you wanted Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, I wouldn't necessarily argue with it, but in a normal one quarterback league, this isn't a best ball draft. This is a redraft league. I don't necessarily think I need to pull the trigger on that. Again, Aaron Jones just feels gross even at the beginning of the third round, if I'm being honest with you. So we're either going to go wide receiver or go TJ Hawkinson or Mark Andrews. I think you can debate who the tight end number 2 is. Lamar Jackson, obviously back on the team. I think that this offense should be relatively solid as long as Lamar Jackson can stay healthy. Knock on wood. But ultimately, I don't feel that much better about Mark Andrews than I would about George Kittle or Kyle Pitts, who could fall to us in the 4th round. So I don't really feel like I need to be reaching here necessarily on Mark Andrews. So we're just going to go best wide receiver available. This is another kind of pick your poison scenario. Garrett Wilson gets Aaron Rodgers. You might like Garrett Wilson the best. Jalen Waddle, second year with Mike McDaniel, his 3rd year in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa, if he's able to stay healthy, Waddle has that great ceiling. T. Higgins with Joe Shiesty in Cincinnati. The wide receiver 2, just like Jalen Waddle. The only technical wide receiver 1 on their team is Garrett Wilson, but I'm going to be honest, I'm going to go with Jalen Waddle. I really think if Tua is able to stay healthy, Jalen Waddle could be a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football. Wouldn't shock me if both him and Tyreek Hill finished inside of the top 5. Jalen Waddle, wide receiver 8 last year, despite the fact that Tua got hurt. And then they had Teddy fucking Bridgewater play quarterback, Skylar Thompson. I think Jalen Waddle has a great year in 2023. So we start the draft with 3 straight wide receivers. Do I look to do that in every single draft? No, but based upon the board that we were looking at, I think it would have been a little bit egregious to kind of reach on the running backs at that point. So after we went with Jalen Waddle away, Waddle, till the very next day, we see Mark Andrews, Devontae Smith, Garrett Wilson, TJ Hawkinson, T. Higgins, Pat Mahomes, Joe Mixon, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, Chris Olave, and James Conner close up the 3rd round. I love James Conner, but in the 3rd round, fuck no, baby. At number 401, the first pick in the 4th round, we got DK Metcalf, Miles Sanders, Deebo Samuel, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman, Drake London, Javonte Williams, a little gross, not knowing necessarily how healthy he's going to be. I think if he is healthy week 1, smash pick in the 4th round. But right now in May, you kind of want to move slowly, tread lightly on him, in my opinion. Josh Allen, Amari Cooper, Dameon Pierce, Chris Godwin. When it comes to ranking quarterbacks, I find it to be pretty tough. Right now, I have Jalen Hurts as the number 1 quarterback, and Jalen Hurts is still available. I think in a lot of leagues with more casual players, based upon how good Jalen Hurts was last year, it wouldn't shock me if he was already off of the board. But again, in more competitive leagues, leagues with people that are watching these YouTube videos, and even not my YouTube videos, other YouTube videos, podcasts, all that, they might be a little bit more likely to wait on the quarterback position. If Jalen Hurts was here, though, I definitely would take him. So again, some people might say that this is never going to happen in a league, but I think it's pretty possible. Jalen Hurts, again, the rushing upside is incredible. The guy is basically a running back and a quarterback in one, and he could easily be the quarterback 1 in 2023. And I don't even think I have to get down on my knees and give this guy the gawk 9,000, right? We all saw how good he was. And the biggest benefit of that is if we wait on quarterback and say we wait past Burrow, Jackson, Fields, Herbert, Lawrence, and we even wait past Prescott, Watson, then you kind of get into the range where, sure, you can draft Daniel Jones and just stick with Daniel Jones. But when you have Daniel Jones, you kind of want to play the matchups, right? So then you're kind of pigeonholing yourself into drafting 2 quarterbacks, whereas if you have Jalen Hurts, you're good to go with just having Jalen Hurts as your guy, right? Until the bye week, obviously. Today, as you guys are watching the video, the bye weeks are going to come out because I believe the schedule drops today on Thursday, so that's pretty interesting. The bye weeks only change my thought process when it comes to the onesie positions, which are quarterback and tight end. Your team is going to look drastically different most of the time at running back and wide receiver by the time you get to week 6, 7 when people are on bye. So even if you load up on bye 6, everyone is bye 6, it's very unlikely that by the time you even get to week number 6 that you have all of those players. So now that we have Jalen Hurts, no need for the quarterback position anymore. We're just going to keep loading up on running backs, wide receivers, and maybe even sprinkle on a tight end. I like Dallas Goedert. I like George Kittle. I like Kyle Pitts. But if I'm being honest with you, like, at the end of the day, I don't love drafting tight ends in the middle rounds this year. I really don't. Like, if no one takes a tight end, and by the time we get to pick at the 6.12, if Waller's there, boom, I'm smashing the draft button. But I'm not super overly ecstatic to do it. Like, I'm not forcing myself into doing it. Looking at the running backs, are a little bit gross. Jahmyr Gibbs' ADP is way different on here compared to on Underdog. Jahmyr Gibbs is like a 3rd round draft pick. Sometimes you're lucky a 4th round pick. Falls all the way to 5th round here. Jahmyr Gibbs should be the RB number 1 on the Detroit Lions. Now, it might take some time, right? David Montgomery might start because he's the veteran back, but at the end of the day, I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up being the guy on the team deeper into the season. While it might suck for him to be our RB1 because he might not necessarily be all that useful early on, I think his upside in an offense like the Lions is incredible. Obviously, stacking the Lions in the past, having 2 players on the Lions might have been a little bit scary, but I think things are different, right? The Lions are a much better team now compared to the past. After Jahmyr Gibbs, we see DeAndre Hopkins, Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy's just a gross name in the 5th round. I mean, the guy has all the talent. He just hasn't really done it at the NFL level, in my opinion, and who knows? You know, Russell Wilson was awful last year. I don't think Jerry Jeudy's necessarily a terrible draft pick. If I'm being honest with you, I don't think if I drafted 10 teams, I probably wouldn't draft him on a single team, if I'm being honest with you. After Jerry Jeudy comes Cam Akers, Mike Evans, DJ Moore, J.K. Dobbins, Mike Dubb, Mike Williams, Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Skirt. Rashad White, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. The 6th round opens with Justin Fields, Lamar Jackson, Joe Shiesty, Kyle Pitts, George Kittle, Isaiah Pacheco, Dallas Goedert, Brandon Ayuk, Darren Waller, Pat Freiermuth, and Terry McLaurin. I understand in drafts that people panic, right? They see all the tight ends go, and then they're like, oh, I need to get this next guy. After Darren Waller, I mean, like, I still like Ingram and Njoku and Schultz, but, like, it's a big drop-off from Waller to Freiermuth, and drafting them back-to-back is disgusting. They just brought in another tight end now. Obviously, Washington out of Georgia is a really good blocker, so they're going to use him to block a bunch, but still, like, that doesn't make me feel confident in drafting Freiermuth in the 6th round. A little bit gross. Looking at the board here, again, just because we're kind of a little low on running backs, I don't want to necessarily just force myself to spam draft running backs here. If I knew that Alvin Kamara was going to be good to go, like if I knew he wasn't going to get suspended, then yeah, in the 6th round, fucking hoorah, let's draft Alvin Kamara. But I don't necessarily know that to be true. The other running backs are just not mouth-watering. We got the receivers, we got the quarterbacks, so we don't necessarily need to just panic here. I think I'm going to go with one of these running backs. I like Khalil Herbert. They just drafted another running back, Roschon Johnson, out of Texas. They also have Donta Foreman, but I think Khalil's the best out of them. I don't love James Cook. I mean, he really is the only running back there, so he's going to get some juice, but because Devin Singletary's in Houston. But I don't know. I feel more comfortable drafting Khalil Herbert. He really showed how good he could play last year through a couple of games. Obviously, he didn't just run hot all season, but he had a game where he was the RB1, a couple of top 18 games. I think he's good enough. I mean, he's not the best running back in the NFL, of course, but I think he's good enough for this team. So we're going to go with Khalil Herbert. The question here is, do we want to jump back on the receiver train, get another wide receiver with high upside, or just kind of jam it in here, right? Because we are going to not necessarily want to start Jahmyr Gibbs week 1 based upon what I know right now. Now, we could get to late August and it's like, oh, Jahmyr Gibbs obviously start him week 1 with full confidence. I'm being honest with you, like there's so many running backs that you can draft that it almost would feel crazy to force my hand here and draft a running back. So I'm going to go receiver. I'm going with my guy, Christian Watson. I know he's not going to play a crazy amount of games in my lineup, but injuries happen. It is fantasy football, and I think Christian Watson has legitimate top 5 upside. Maybe not top 5, top 12 upside with Jordan Love. I think that a lot of people are discrediting him because of Jordan Love. I talked about him in the must-draft wide receiver video that I made yesterday. I really do like him a ton. I think Jordan Love's being slept on a little bit, and I think Christian Watson's the clear alpha wide receiver. He goes much earlier on Underdog. Very late pick in the 7th round. After that, we see Justin Herbert, the pervert, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Christian Kirk, Alvin Kamara, Calvin Ridley, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Hollywood Brown, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Treylon Burks, Brian Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Cook, Cortland Sutton, Jackson Smith, Najigba, Tyler Algier. Terrible pick. He's a handcuff in the 8th round. Just not for me. Like, I don't see him getting any run at all, really. Like, maybe he'll vulture a couple touchdowns or something, but he's not an 8th round pick with Bijan Robinson there. Jameson Williams, gross pick because he's suspended for 6 games. Jahan Dotson and Rashad Penny. So here we got our receivers, right? We have a loaded wide receiver core. We have Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle, and Christian Kirk. So now just spam the running back button unless we want a tight end. Let's see how many people have tight ends by roster. Let's see. So I don't have a tight end. Slim Pickens doesn't have a tight end. Harbaugh, I can't even fucking pronounce that name, and Orange Sherbert. So 4 teams without a tight end, including myself. I'm fine waiting on tight end at this point. I'll move down a little bit so you guys can see the board correctly a little bit better. So I'm fine waiting. Like, I don't see much of a difference between Evan Ingram and Dalton Schultz. Hopefully Schultz falls back to me. If not, we're kind of in a situation where you just draft 2 tight ends and then cycle them in and out based upon matchup. I know that can get incredibly annoying, especially when you start the wrong one, but it is what it is. If you have ended up enjoying this far, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button as well. Leave me any comments if you have any questions. Now, the question here is, what do we want to do? I think the best strategy here would be to just go for points early on in the season, right? Because Jahmyr Gibbs might not have the best job week 1. So we're going to secure some points for week 1. And then I think by like week 4 or 5, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be full steam fucking ahead. A guy you want to be starting every single week based upon his skill set from college and in an offense that I think is going to be really good in the Lions. So we're going to go for points week 1. If Javonte Williams misses week 1, I think Samaje Perine is a must-start running back in week 1. Now, when Javonte Williams is back, do you want to be starting Samaje Perine? No. So I guess I understand why you might not want to pick him here in the 8th round, but I'm going to do so because that's how I'm building this team. And then we have another question here. Do we want to go with Damian Harris? Do I think Damian Harris is good enough to overtake James Cook? Yes. Yes. Because I don't think James Cook's very good, but I still think James Cook's going to get some run. I think another good answer would be to draft like Zach Charbonnet, because I think he would go here. And again, he's another guy that you're kind of taking the shot on that could eventually overtake Kenneth Walker. So we're going to do that. We're just going to load up on all these high upside running backs, right? Because we have the quarterback. We have this loaded wide receiver core. So why not just take these dart throws on these running backs that could potentially smash late in the season? We have Perine for week 1, Khalil Herbert for week 1. So I think we're fine right now. Looking at the draft board, after him was Zach Charbonnet, we see George Pickens, Kadarius Toney, Rashad Master Bateman, Rondale Moore, Jacoby Myers, Zay Flowers, Darnell. Here comes the Mooney, my guy. What a disaster of a season last year, though. Obviously, anyone who drafted him and listened to me probably felt very bad, and so did I. Because when I give out the advice, I also draft like that. I know it might be shocking, but I also draft based upon the way that I talk about fantasy football. After Darnell Mooney, AG, Antonio Gibson, Gabe Davis, Jerick McKinnon, Elijah Moore, Zay Jones, Michael Thomas, Adam Thielen, Nico Collins. Really high pick. I love Nico Collins, but 10th round, a little bit crazy, especially had a guy like Jordan Addison, Jeff Wilson Jr., Jordan Addison, Kirk Cousins, Kirko Chains, Donta Foreman, Jamal Williams, Damian Harris, and Alexander Madison. Madison is a complete and utter steal in the 10th round if Dalvin Cook gets traded, but at this point, I don't think that's necessarily like a lock to happen. Some interesting picks. Michael Thomas. I wasn't necessarily all over him last year, but when he played, he was good. If he's able to stay healthy all year, I mean, in the 10th round, you're just laughing straight to the fucking bank if that ends up paying off. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, 4 wide receivers. We still don't have a tight end. At this point, I think people would start taking tight ends. Pick whoever you want out of these guys of Ingram, Njoku, Schultz. Ingram now just has received Calvin Ridley onto the team, so that's not necessarily the best, but it's not like Calvin Ridley's this fucking touchdown vulture. I like Schultz, if I'm being honest with you. Now, in going from Dallas to Houston, CJ Stroud drafted. I think this Houston offense is going to be sneaky good, so I like Dalton Schultz. Again, when you draft Schultz, you can just draft another tight end as well if you're nervous about him. That's just kind of how I think about things. So we're back up on the board here. Probably just going to go with another running back here because, again, we want to make sure we have some guys. I think Devin Singletary is a fine pick. I do love Dameon Pierce. You guys do know that. But obviously, if something was to happen to Dameon Pierce based upon the backfield that's behind Devin Singletary, he's pretty clearly the best handcuff. Looking down here, is the other Dolphin, is Devin A-Chain available? He is. He's buried down here. He's a smash pick. Again, just another guy that could end up being really good. He's got incredibly fast speed. He is going to potentially catching a lot of passes from Tua. They drafted him in the 3rd round for a reason. Mike McDaniel was ecstatic about that. They'll say it's a reach. I know you guys can't see. Fantasy Pros shows a thing at the bottom. They're like, reach alert. Fucking give me a reach around, Fantasy Pros, because Devin A-Chain, Devin off the chain, Devin 2 chains was a great pick there. 2 chains. All right, so we're back up on the board. We have 5 running backs now. Week 1 might not be the best still, but this running back core could be loaded. We need more receivers, obviously. We have 2 bench spots left and then a kicker and a defense. If you draft a kicker and a defense anywhere besides the last 2 rounds, you are a little bit crazy. After Devin A-Chain, we got DJ Chark, Sky with 2 Ys more. Sky Moore, again, really does sound like a porn star name. Quentin Johnston, Wan'Dale Robinson, my boy Tua Tagovailoa, Alan Lazard, Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ, Devin Singletary, Tyler, Boyd, Elijah Mitchell, Evan Ingram, Kenneth Gainwell, Curtis Samuel, David Njoku, not Devin Njoku, the Tribal Chief, I think. Is that his nickname? That's also Roman Reigns' nickname. Cole Kmet, Greg Dulcich, Chig Okonkwo, Kareem Hunt, Raheem Mostert, Dawson Knox one time if you're with me, Tyler Higbee, and Anthony Richardson. Figured I should talk about Anthony Richardson. I love him this year for fantasy football. I don't think he's the best player ever. Far from it. But look, if you have Herbert, you don't need him. But if you're drafting like Daniel Jones, you might as well just draft Anthony Richardson because Anthony Richardson has that crazy rushing upside. He's got that dog in him. Now, again, I don't think he's the best passer ever, but I think he has enough skill in him to be really, really good for fantasy football. Again, but might not be the best real-life quarterback, but really good for fantasy football. So, again, if you want another tight end, you can just draft one of these late-round guys to go with Dalton Schultz. We do need another receiver, though, obviously, before we go with the kicker and the defense. Defense, we're going to be talking about a lot as we get closer to late August. Obviously, I'm going to look up the schedule once the schedule comes out, but it's all based upon streaming for week 1, and then after that, I make a defenses to stream video every single week so that you guys have the best defenses to be playing. If you're playing the same defense every week, now, obviously, there's situations where a couple years ago, I had the Bears. I don't remember which year it was. It was with Trubisky, and the Bears defense was just amazing. Like, must start every week. They could be playing the fucking best offense. They could have been playing fucking prime Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey, and I'm still starting them. It's just how good they were. But a lot of the time, that's just not the case. And a lot of the time, the defense, the 49ers, or the Bills, the Cowboys, and you just like ejaculate in your pants drafting them. Then they just suck half the fucking games because they have too hard of matchups. So looking at the board here, the wide receivers get gross at this point. So I'm just taking my shot on the highest upside guys because, again, unless there's an injury, like, none of these guys are getting in the lineup. So we're going to go with, I think Odell's kind of slept on, but we're going to go Isaiah Hodgins. Could be the wide receiver 1 on the Giants. Obviously, they have Wan'Dale. They draft Jalen Hyatt. But Hodgins could be the number one guy, and you can get him for free, so why not? So up to this point, again, we have one quarterback, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running backs, we have 5 wide receivers. So if you want that tight end, go ahead. I'm a little bit more confident in Schultz than some people, but I think just having that kind of insurance policy, like if Schultz sucks for the first 2 games, sure, maybe I could pick someone up, but I think just drafting Everett, he didn't lose his job. I thought they would draft a tight end, so I think Everett's a fine pick. Again, just on a high-powered offense, get that piece of it late in the draft. And then we're at the point where it's defense and kicker. Fantasy Pros does a good job at simming how I think fantasy drafts should go, right? Where the kickers and defense don't go until the last round. I'm going to go ahead and move myself over here to the electric slide to the bottom left so you guys can see the board a little bit better. But look, that doesn't always happen, right? There's always going to be people in your league who, for some reason, think that you need to have this great kicker, this great defense, and they take them like the 9th round. Now, I understand sometimes the defenses are flying off the board. You want that defense, you draft them in the 12th or the 13th round, right? I get that. But when someone takes a defense, they draft all their key positions, then they just go, oh, let me draft the best defense, so Justin Tucker in like the 9th round or the 8th round. I just don't agree with that. So after I went with Everett, Jalen Warren, Ezekiel Elliott, Leonard Fournette, Uncle Lenny, Rashid Shaheed, Trey McBride, Michael Kata, Keandre Miller, great pick, Geno Smith, Cordell Patterson, Chase Edmonds, and Chuba Hubbard. Then a bunch of defenses, the Niners, the Bills, the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Bucks. Let's see, the Broncos, the Jets, the Patriots, the Ravens, the Dolphins, and then Justin Tucker, the fucker. So we're going to go kicker first, because, again, defense is so heavily based upon matchup, and we don't have the schedule yet. Some of the games are released, but not all of them. I don't think any Week 1 games are out yet. So best kicker available. Pick your poison. You can go with Money Mac. You can go with my old bitch lane, but my Young Ho Taku, Tyler Bass, Pro Shops, Harrison Bucker, Carlson. I'm going to go with Bucker, the fucker, just like Tucker. They got the same nickname. And then for defense, again, you're going to draft your defense based upon who they play in Week 1, which we don't know yet. So we'll just go best available, BPA, best player available, and go with the Chiefs. I don't even think the Chiefs have that great of a defense, but they were the highest rank, so that's who we went with. And then the rest of the draft was a bunch of kickers and defenses. If you see your draft grade and you're like, this draft grade kind of sucks, who cares? Draft grade doesn't mean shit. Let's see what the draft fantasy pros think about us. Doesn't matter what they think. I think our team was really good. Joe Pisapia, clearly a genius, giving me an 88. But I think I got a 100. This team is bonkers. It is bonkers that you can even get a team like this. So our team, to recap, Hurts, quarterback. Our running backs are Jahmyr Gibbs and Khalil Herbert. Our receivers are Jefferson, Amon-Ra, St. Brown. Our tight end is Dalton Schultz. Our flex is Jalen Waddle. Our kicker is Harrison Bucker. And our defense is the Kansas City Chiefs. We got that Chiefs connection. All that Chiefs, baby. Then we got our bench comprised of Christian Watson, Samaje Perine, Zach Charbonnet, Devin A-Chain, Isaiah Hodgins, and Gerald Everett. Personally, I think I would have either sprinkled another running back or a wide receiver instead of Everett. At the same time, I think Everett makes sense. Drafting a backup quarterback when you draft Jalen Hurts makes no sense. So thank you guys all for watching. Let me know what you thought about the team. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know down below in the comment section. I would really appreciate it. I love you guys all so much. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. I recorded this video at night the night before, so that's why we got the cool lights in the background. When I record during the day, they're not as visible. There's actually lights all around the room, so I hope you kind of get this blue/purplish hint on me. I think it looks pretty good. So I love you guys. I really appreciate you. I hope you have a great guys' day. And as always, good boy.